This is the Enterpriser Podcast. My name is Liam Byrne, and today in the studio we have Bob Molle. He is a former Olympic athlete and CFL player, and is the only person in history to win an Olympic silver medal and the Grey Cup, which, by the way, folks, he actually won twice. Since his athletic days, he's become a world-renowned speaker and author, with a new book coming out this September. Bob, we're honored to have you in the show today. What can you tell us about what's new with you?
Another book coming out. Because when I launched Get Comfortable, I struggled as the worst writer in the world. And when I put it out in 2010, how many people have come back to me and said, "Hey, Bob, can you rewrite this and update your stories?" So, and I'm not a great writer, and it's nice to have people that can help you with those kind of things.
Absolutely, having a team of people. That's what I say to the folks around me and my team and stuff. Is I'm really not very good at a lot of different things. There's some things I'm really good at, but I got to have people around me that can help me with the things I'm not good at. And it's good when you're able to recognize that you're not great at certain things, to have people around you to help you with it. So you have a new book coming out in September. I was going to talk about it later, but let's just grab what's the name of your new book that's coming out?
Well, it's going to be the upgraded version of Get Comfortable Being Uncomfortable. It's amazing how many replies I get, or people that bought the book over the years, because I did speak engagements all over the place. I toured with a group called Rich Dad Poor Dad. They had hired me years ago.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, I'm aware of that.
We went to Sweden and, all over Poland. We were everywhere. And I was kind of the energy guy first thing in the morning. They usually 2-day seminars or 1 to 2 day seminars all over the world. And I think just because of the title alone, that the people would run to the back and go, "Get comfortable. What do I have to do?" You know what I mean? And one of the things I didn't know very well, obviously when I first wrote the book in 2010, is people go, "Hey, how did you do that?" or something like that. Give me different ways of getting uncomfortable and stuff like that. So I didn't show them the how. I just said, "Here's how I did it." You know what I mean? And giving people different ways of getting uncomfortable and stuff like that. But my youngest kid would phone me and he'd laugh and he goes, "Dad," he'd go, "You never slow down anyways. You got no barriers." He says, "You walk through everything. You just kind of get in there and just do it. You don't even think about failure." Maybe it's because I'm so dumb. I never thought of failure as I was going to fail. But yeah, it worked out well. The book did well. So this is an upgraded version of Get Comfortable Being Uncomfortable. We're going to put it in quite a few more languages because on the beautiful side of it's gone viral, right? Buddies were phoning me the other day on, I don't know if you saw the Tom Brady roast or something like that. And was it Kevin Hart that was emceeing it?
Yeah.
And he turned around and stopped. And then someone would throw a really good jab. And then the other guy would turn around and he goes, "And you remember, what's that saying? You got to get comfortable being uncomfortable." And he'd start laughing. And everybody's kind of grabbed it and ran with it. The good thing is I bought, well, not to my intelligence, but my wife, Karen, actually, when I wrote the book, she goes, "That's a great title." And she said, "That's going to take off." She knew back then. She goes, "Buy the domains for it." So I bought the getcomfortablebeing.com, which people are bidding unbelievable dollars for me for that domain. And I bought all the domains, .com, .ca. And more important, it took me about 3 years, but I bought the trademark for everything in Canada, from, literature to books to hats to, you know what I mean? It just never launched it before.
That's
So,
awesome. That was great foresight.
Well, my wife's great foresight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And now it's a trending phrase. Can't get comfortable being uncomfortable. That's great. So before I had some things I wanted to chat about with Get Comfortable Being Uncomfortable, but before I do, I know that the folks watching this would like to hear your story about your Olympic story, your Grey Cup story, and the one that I'm sure people ask you to tell all the time. But I'd love to hear it. I'd love to hear your success story in going to the Olympics, winning, and then going to the Grey Cup twice and winning.
Yeah, well, I'm dating myself a few years ago, 84. I was the youngest guy on the Olympic team at the time. So I
Yeah.
had a different trail than anybody else. I had a really weird so many things happened to me in a short period of time. The good thing was I was already ranked fifth in the world when I was 20. I'd been to Kiev at the World Championships and I'd already placed fifth in the world, so I was the highest ranked Canadian uh, in Canada wrestling. So everything really, you don't make a lot of money, but everything's paid for. You don't have to work in the summer and stuff like that. So I just focused training 24/7. And that's the nice thing about it was I could really focus in on my training. So going to the Olympics, I was only 21. I was the youngest guy on the team. But there's another story that a lot of people don't know about. This will be a good Google for you. But the guy that I trained with, that he was the world junior champion,
Yeah.
was a guy out of, he was actually out of Surrey, BC, but he was the heavyweight for Louisiana State University. And his name was John Tenta. And they brought him in to train with me before the Olympics.
Okay.
And but John went on to pro wrestling. His title name or everything for pro wrestling was called the Earthquake.
Okay.
And
All right.
I think when John died, unfortunately at 42, great guy too. They had him listed at 6'7", something like that, 465 pounds.
Wow.
When I was wrestling him, he was probably about 360, but a six. You shoot a few single legs on that guy during 2-day practices. It puts a little pressure on your spine. I'm probably about 275. I'm a little ant compared to him. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And but they brought the big guy in to train. It was unlimited weight classes at the time. Now there's a cap. You can't weigh more than 286 at super heavyweight now.
Okay.
Back when I was there, they'd throw their biggest giant out there, 7 foot
Yeah.
guy, everything. You didn't know what you're wrestling, right? And every country would throw their whatever, back to Soviet Union, the guys were steroided up to the max. They were, you know what I mean? You had everything. And every country would throw their biggest, monster at you. And you'd have to, well, I turned most of my people, so I was pretty good on the ground wrestling. But unfortunate part of that was when I was wrestling him every day, I'd injured my back and I had to go in for surgery 21 days before the Olympics.
That's incredible. I read that actually. Yeah.
And so I'm standing there and being very candid with you, I watched the opening ceremonies from the hospital bed. I just got out of surgery, and I was sitting in there and I was in the hospital bed and crying because I wanted to be at the Olympics. And they said, "Well, you ain't gonna make it now." Kind of everybody, poo-pooed that idea because I'd just gone on wrestling John every day. You know what I mean? Put pressure, and I tried to. Oh, my back's sore, and you always want to fight through it. Hey, it's before the Olympics. Got to keep going. Got to keep going. You know what I mean?
Hmm. Hmm.
And put so much pressure on my spine and everything. Well, I was injured. I probably should have taken a week or two off or something like that, right? And with the Olympics coming up, I just pushed through it like a clown. I should have just taken my time. Anyways, I had a ruptured disc, and the piece of the disc had come off, so I had no choice but to have surgery, and had surgery. So I watched it from the Olympics, and actually it took all the pressure off me, to tell you the truth, on that thing. So I spent 7 days, I think I was 6 or 7 days in the hospital, and with the back surgery before I could get up and walk. And then there's a guy named Gene Kaniski that kind of picked me up. His son was my best buddy, and Gene was an old pro wrestler up in that, and he kind of like my second dad, and wake me up every morning and get me up out of bed and try to walk a couple steps every day and walk farther every day. And we just got that 7 days in the hospital. I spent 7 days up at I think it was a couple days up at Simon Fraser University, and then I ended up flying to pass the physical. They didn't think I could pass the physical, and so I flew down to LA, passed the physical, and got in the tournament like literally just at a time. And I had all my matches. And the nice thing was, it was lucky. The wrestling super heavyweight wasn't until the last day of the Olympics. So it
Okay.
happened at the end of the Olympics, because if it would have happened at the beginning, I would have never made it, right?
Yep.
And so, actually, a whole bunch of crazy things. So I'm already, so the media just built it up like Yeah, it's nice he could show up, but he ain't going to do crap because he just came out of back surgery. So there was no real pressure. I think there's a lot of pressure and a lot of people fold under the Olympics because of, well, matches. I've way more talented wrestlers than me and stronger, faster, this, that. But when you put the pressure on them, put the light, put a 15,000 crowd at them, Liam, guess what happens to them? They fold under pressure. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah,
So
for sure.
I've seen a lot of people go down that way, and I handled pressure always pretty good through all my tournaments and professional life, but it even took less pressure off because they just thought, oh, it's nice that he could show up. You know what I mean? It was kind of the write up. Bob Molle just recovered from back surgery, and he just did that. It's nice of him to show up, kind of thing. And he probably won't pass the physical. And then if he passes the physical, just came out of surgery, so they thought I was just there for a good job, you can stand and walk kind of thing, right? And,
Yeah.
so there was no pressure on me at any point, right? Well, not. I think in any match you go up to, there's pressure, but there wasn't much. The media kind of built me up as like, oh, it's nice you could recover, and here's your Canada sweatsuit, and get out. You're going to have 1-2 matches, or one match, and you're done, right?
Yeah, the expectations weren't super high, I imagine.
No, everybody just like a pat in the back kind of thing, and the media kind of blew it out of proportion that I just recovered, 18 days. I'd already had a silver medal, right? And before that, they were just kind of patting me on the back. But the guy I trained with, who was #1 in the world at the time, actually Bruce Baumgartner, he was a first 4-time Olympic medalist ever in the sport of wrestling back in the day, and that's who I lost to. He won 84 silver and medal 88, another gold in 96 or something like that. But he did 4 Olympic medals in which had never been done in the history of the sport of wrestling before.
Wow.
And that was the #1 ranked guy. I didn't want to wrestle him, right? And I was hoping, because if you're on the backside and you lose a match, and the first guy I drew was actually Bruce Baumgartner, and I trained with Bruce down in Oklahoma State. He was assistant coach, invited me down. Him and I were trained together for well over a couple months before we went to the Olympics. And that's the only guy I don't want to draw first. I'd draw anybody in the world, but I don't want the #1 ranked guy right off the bat, right?
Yeah.
Or else
Really?
back wrestling twice as many matches just to get to a bronze medal match, right?
Yeah.
You're on the backside. And weird thing happened. It was just like, you know what I mean? And I'm trying to stay positive, and a media guy goes, hey, do you know who you drew? This and that. And I'm trying to get him away from me. I'm pissed off. I go, of all the people in the world that I could draw, I'd draw the #1 guy right off the bat. I said, I got the back operation, you know what I mean? I got this. How many things I got to contend with? I got to pass the drugs. I can't be on any painkillers. I got this. And then I draw the #1 guy. And as I'm walking out, it was unbelievable. It's just like the way stuff happens sometimes. A guy turns around, the media guy, and he goes, hey, did you hear what happened to the draw? And he pokes me on the shoulder, and I thought he was going to tell me about Bruce, right? Yeah. And I turned around, and I'm just kind of snarly. I just kind of, well, I know what happened. I drew Bruce. And he goes, no, you didn't hear? He said, what? And he says, well, there's 2 kinds of testing in the Olympics. There's random testing and test. If you medal, you got a test. You have a urine test in that. And this guy was a Swede, big, jacked up Greco wrestler, and he got caught for steroids the day of.
Oh, wow.
And he was in our weight class, and he's a massive guy, and he had medaled before. He was a former silver medalist, and he tested positive. So since the tournament wasn't starting until that night, they had to redo the draw. They could have kicked him out, grab him, you know what I mean? Like probably ship him out to Sweden right off the bat.
Yeah.
He's a steroided guy out there. And they ship him up, redo the draw. Bruce ends up at the top of the draw. I ended up at the bottom draw. Only time I got the chance of beating Bruce was in the Olympic finals. So it's the way, stuff rolls sometimes, you know what I mean? And I was, pretty good turner. I could turn just about everybody. That was kind of, everybody knew that was my thought. But once I took someone down, I'm going to twist you into a pretzel and do that. So it was pretty fortunate for me that all those things turned, from a, upside down going into surgery. You try to overtrain. So this happens, your pumps and your valleys and then peaks. And it was just like you would have walked out of there and you go, hey, I probably should have been on Prozac at some point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, what a roller coaster.
Yeah, and then you end up an Olympic medal, and you're the youngest guy, at 21 or stuff like that. And I'm only 21 years old, but 22, I was already, I was just about finished my degree at Simon Fraser. But the spring of '85, I was already drafted pro football, so it was a nice, step right from Olympics. I already had Olympic medal, I had Pan Am, I had that World Cup medal, and I'm standing there at Bombers had drafted me first round, and Tampa Bay had drafted me that. So it was just a perfect sequence to go right into pro football, which I did. So it was pretty smooth sailing after that. You know what I mean? Had a few
Yeah.
surgeries and that, but pretty much a Cinderella story. After I'm done the Olympics, I'm already drafted pro football in '85. I went straight into pro ball. I had finished my degree and go into that. And by the '88, we had already won a Grey Cup. So I was the only person in the world, and I didn't even know about it at the time, that had an Olympic medal and a Grey Cup ring, right? And then we won another one, and every other year I was in a Grey Cup, right? Good teams, good people. I was really blessed with some really great players that I played around. Unfortunately, buried, 60, 70% of them already. That's the sad part. But yeah, and so there's a lot of dips and valleys. Everybody thinks it's perfect ride for you. It's anything but that, right? For
Yeah,
me,
for
just
sure.
like peaks and valleys all the times.
Yeah, speaking of peaks and valleys, one of the things that I wanted to bring up was, and I've watched some like documentaries about this and stuff too. That the struggle is real a lot of times for Olympians. I mean, you were drafted into the CFL, but for Olympians, they spend their entire young lives training. They win a medal, and then they have to transition back into normal life. Um, you used what you learned and you catapulted yourself into a public figure, but there's a lot of stories of people who spend a lot of time training to become an Olympic medalist, and then when they finish, they're kind of just that's the end of their story, and they don't really know what to do after that.
Hear lots of those stories. In fact, a lot of people reached out to me after, and I was already drafted by Tampa Bay, actually, in the States of the USFL. I don't remember if you remember that. And USFL had drafted me, so I had a number of places that I could go to. But obviously, being a Canadian, you'd have more longer career if you just kept healthy in the CFL, right?
Mm.
And for me, it was an easy transition. Not only that, I did. But I had a lot of people calling me on it exactly. What do I do? What do you recommend? This and that and that. And I was so busy that I didn't even come up for air, because when I went to Winnipeg, and I was fortunate, I played my whole career there in the Grey Cup every other year. And not only that, but you know what I mean? Retired there on my own, and in the Hall of Fame there, like everything. I couldn't have went any better. Just good people around me. That what I got a call from the University of Manitoba, and when I was there, like second year, and I'm the youngest coach at 25, they offered me the head coaching job. Asked me if I'd stay there in the off season and take over the wrestling team at
All
University of
right.
Manitoba. They weren't a good team at the time, and they weren't even ranked in the top 25 in the country. And so I got to recruit people all across the country. Every time I go for a game, I'd recruit actually out of Ontario, everywhere, all the
Mm-hmm.
different guys. Because you're there a day before, take the parents out, free tickets, I'd give them, sideline, get the PR guy to get sideline passes, and I'd recruit nationwide. So I went from one practice to the other practice, and you know what I mean? I didn't have time to even come up for air because I was a full-time wrestling coach, and I'd go train them first thing in the morning, then do my training. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then and then go back to another wrestling practice at nighttime, and then I'd come home, and I just '88. I'd already my girlfriend, who was my wife now. She was just graduated from law school at U of Vic, and we had a little kid coming in January of '89, our first child. So we didn't have time to come up for air. To tell you the truth, that
How many
that
uh, how many kids do you have, Bob?
we had three now. but my youngest ones are in their 30s now. I got a pilot in Kelowna. They got a little girl, and yeah, we got a couple more coming down the road. I already got 1, 2, 3, 4 grandchildren, and we got a couple more on the run too. We got 2 more coming. So
Awesome.
daughter in Australia, so we go to Australia a couple times a year and visit our boys out there. They have their 3rd one coming, and I got a son here who's a fireman in Richmond here too. So
Australia.
yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's fantastic. But how do you manage that flight, by the way?
Well, my wife can jump on a plane. Karen can pop on that one in 2 seconds. She can fall asleep and get her little, pay a little extra dollar and get the bed on and stuff like that. But there's a direct flight. They're in a little area called Noosa. It's beautiful, just
Yeah.
north of Brisbane, about an hour and a half. And we fly into Brisbane, but the flight leaves you around 11 o'clock at night. If timing wise, you just jump in your bed and you can probably knock off 6 to 8 hours. But what is it, a 14, 15-hour flight, something like that?
Yeah. Yeah. I used to live in Poland, and I remember the flights over, like it was just direct flight 9 hours, and I I used to have to get up on the plane and walk to the back of the plane, and I would just stand. I just couldn't sit anymore. I'd have to stand at the back, past the bathrooms, and the stewardesses would come back, and they would be like, "Sir, you have to sit down." I'd be like, "I'm not going to sit back down." I was sitting for 7 straight hours. I'm gonna stand up now, and but yeah, I don't miss those flights. That's incredible. So I'd love to go to Australia, but I don't think that I don't think I'd ever be down for staying in an airplane for that long. Just to go
It's
for
a haul.
sightseeing.
We did it. Yeah, we do it. Probably because we got 2 and our 3rd grandchildren coming out there with our daughter. We probably got our third kid coming. So yeah, we go in there, and I think my daughter and I got a great relationship, and her son. But the most important thing we got was. It's their summer too when we're heading out there. I live in Victoria. It's kind of rainy season out here, and you pop out there, and I can jump on the bike, and they go, "Grandpa, you're the only idiot that's going to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and deal with my 2 kids and change their diapers and take the dog out and run them until they're dead tired, right?" So
Yeah.
I'm an early morning riser, but at the same token, I go to bed the same time that
Yeah.
the babies. Or I beat them to bed.
Yeah, beat to the bed. Yeah, yeah. I guess if my kids were in Australia, I'd go down too. I'm fortunate that my kids are not old enough to be anywhere as we are. So I wanted to talk a bit more about getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. This is something that I kind of the principle that I've personally had and lived with for a long time. My younger years, I struggled a lot with mental health and with addiction, and so for me, I used to use the principle of getting comfortable, being uncomfortable, just for me to live in a normal lifestyle. Like, don't get up and drink half a quart of vodka today. Go to the office and get your work done. Right, to live in what most people would consider a normal world, for me was an uncomfortable world, and so I used that principle for a long time, and I still use it now in my work life to when I get new opportunities. Any opportunity that presents itself, I never say no to. If it's something I don't know how to do. I do what Richard Branson says, which is if you don't know how to do something, learn how to do it. So I've used that principle for a long time. Where did that come from for you? In your career, where did you start to say, okay, this phrase is actually something that's hitting home enough that I want to make it part of what I talk about?
Actually, where the phrase comes from, not too many people know this. This is an interesting thing, and the tidbit for my book, actually. And obviously, I brought it years ago. I brought it out in 2007 about. And the reason why, I had a great mentor at the time, and I'd met him in Calgary at the time. And him and he did his PhD in organizational behavior, and did his master's and his PhD in the States, and he was putting on a course, and I met him through the gym, and we were working out at a YMCA, and we just hit it out of the park. We were just talking about different things, and we, you know how you something just chemistry goes, you know, well,
Oh
told
yeah,
me
for
off
sure.
the course and stuff like that, and he goes, boom, and I said, I'd love to, and it wasn't, you know, he paid my $5,000. We met for a day every month for a year. And Bertie Novikowski was his name. Unfortunately, I lost him probably probably more than 15 years ago, but around there. And he had, I'd taken a course with him in the early, I'm trying to remember, quite a few years ago. And he taught an Eastern philosophy and dating back thousands of years ago. And I remember asking him at the end of a seminar, one of his seminars, like we had a tight group, probably about 12 people that joined this course that he taught. And it was all about Eastern philosophies and studying them, and he'd convert it to English to us. And then you go, what's this mean? What's this mean? What's this mean? And like when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. That's the kind of phrases that would come out of his mouth. And I got all my quotes. In fact, I got a big book here called High Order of Thinking, just think different, right? And I said, if you were going to summarize, I remember asking Bertie at the end of it, and we'd go for coffee once in a while even because we developed such a great relationship. And he says, if you were to summarize all this thinking that you taught us and then converted it to English, and there was a toast, there was on this and this, and I got all these crazy quotes that people come up to me and go, where'd you get that from? And I'd say 80% of it comes, some of the stuff I made up, but 80% of it came from him, right? And he just converted it to English for me, and he just got, Bob, and he slowed it down for me. He just goes, without a word of a lie, he looked at me, he said, the whole philosophy in English means get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I went, okay. And I said, can I use that? He goes, I don't care. He said, I'm just converting it to English for you. And that's when my wife and I said, it's just about getting comfortable, being uncomfortable. I said, it couldn't be, and it's been there for thousands of years. He just converted it for me to English. And he said, the only time you're ever going to grow is when you put yourself in uncomfortable situations, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, that is how you grow. You don't grow without being in uncomfortable situations. That's where you learn. That's how you learn, right? How do you use it do you set intentions in your daily life? How do you use that principle in your life to help you grow?
Well, I think my wife would like me to slow that down a bit. and at 60, I've become 62 and just started another company. And she's like, just like I said, get the Prozac for him, right? I use it, I think, because she'd want me to slow down a little bit. I've done anything from a bodybuilding contest to a marathon to an Ironman to, you know what I mean? From pro football to wrestling, just beat the crap out of my body. In fact, I'm up for operation. My hip's getting done for the second time, both hips. I just did my knee's been done. I'm operation number 17 actually coming up. So I've been under the knife a few times. And she goes, you know, as my surgeon said to me once, you know, he looked at me, he goes, Bob, he says, you know what? And I thought he was going to give me this great information, Liam. I thought, you know what I mean? I need to talk to you. And he said, give me this advice. And then he slowed it down. He goes, I said, what's that? And he goes, you should look at your birth certificate once in a while. And I'm like, you guys, you're trying to do this now. Then you're racing up a hill. Then you do that. But he goes, he threw another hard one at me. He goes, oh, Bob, you know, there's two kinds of horses, he said. Race horses and plow horses. Guess which one you are? Why are you out doing an Ironman? People are 200. When I retired from pro football, I was probably 300 pounds, right? And I'm back to my high school weight now, about 220. But back in the day, and then doing Ironmans, he said, Bob, you're Clydesdale. You know how much pressure that puts on your joints when you're doing an Ironman? Well, I just wanted to try it. You know what I mean? So I just do.
Are you still doing Ironman?
No. I've replaced so many joints now. My left knee's been replaced 4 times. I just wipe my brains out now. Yeah, hip's been replaced 2 times. The left, the right one's going to get replaced for the second time here coming up in the next year. Yeah, no, I overdid it, and that. But better to wear out than rust out, right?
Yeah, 100%. No, I agree. And what I mean, I've gotten back into fitness in the past year quite a bit. Um, and the last time that I was in great shape was probably 15 years ago now. And so in this past year, I've been back to the gym 5 days a week, and I feel a lot better, but it's a whole different ball game at 37 than it was in my mid 20s and early 20s. Like my cardiovascular capability is completely changed. I can barely run. I've been running every day, and I still can barely run. And I do have muscle memory. My strength is back to what it used to be, and that sort of thing. But my body is complaining constantly. Um, I wish that I had done what I've been doing in the past year. I wish that I'd done this 10 years ago and stayed on it, because my body is complaining. It's not doing what I'm asking it to do nearly as much as did when I was in my mid and early 20s.
Try it. Try it. We'll have this conversation when you're in your 60s if I'm still alive.
Yeah,
How
that's
old are you now?
incredible. Yeah, I'm 37.
37. Yeah, I turned 62 in September 23rd, and yeah. Well, here's how sick I am, but I find it. I'm. I don't know if I'm embarrassed to say it, but a little bit. I'm kind of goofy that way. I have a bike and all my. I got a consulting business, one of my businesses, so I travel uh, pretty extensively across mostly Western Canada. But I got a bike in. Obviously, I'm in Victoria and Acres. I got a couple bikes here. I bike all the time. I don't go anywhere unless I'm picking up my wife. She lives in Calgary. She flies in on the weekends, but unless I'm picking her up at the airport, she probably wouldn't like me doubling her on the bike.
No, probably not.
And I never use a vehicle. I'm
Oh,
on a
really?
bike. So I got two bikes here. Well, I got more than two, but I got a bike in Vancouver. I got a bike in Calgary. I got a bike in Winnipeg. And so when I get off the plane, I just go. Clients know that I just pull up right out with my bike, and go boot around. If I wake up in the morning, got a meeting or something like that, I bike everywhere in snow and whatever. So I got bikes. So it's kind of a easy way for me to get exercise. Like I'll bike to the gym. I go every day, and I just find it just cleans up my brain. To tell you the truth, gets me away from all the noise. Sometimes emails, everything that's happening, and I just go exercise. And I'd be embarrassed to tell you how many times that plans come, especially when you got a consulting issue. Because when someone's calling you, it's not because everything's going well. You know what I mean?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they got a problem. You need to solve it. So on the positive side, I find that I just go scream out to the ocean, and I get a good hour bike ride in. Weirdest times, I'd be embarrassed, like I said, to tell you that I could stop, and all of a sudden that you just plant that seed in your subconscious brain, and then the answer comes to you, and you just go, "Wow, my brain still does work."
Yeah. I walk to the gym, and I try. I used to use for a long time. Anytime I was walking anywhere or anything, I'd always have my headphones in and I'd be listening to music. But now I run a consulting business as well, and between that and the podcast, I work a lot every week, and I now strive for moments of peace and quiet. I don't listen to music when I'm on a walk to the gym, and that final walk to the gym is when a lot of my best ideas happen. It's when I'm just
Yeah,
in my quiet zone, because I try not to think. I try not to process work stuff when I'm laying in bed before I go to sleep. I try to meditate and do sleep meditation. I try to focus on work stuff while I'm in the workday, and so yeah, those quiet periods. I strive for quiet periods throughout the day, because I find that my best ideas come from those moments of peace, I guess, moments of serenity, I call them. So the last thing I wanted to ask you, because we're gonna have business owners and entrepreneurs are watching this. What would you say is the best way for an entrepreneur or a business owner to use this principle of getting comfortable being uncomfortable?
well, if it depends what they want to do with their business, but one of the things I didn't even realize back in the day as your company owner, a lot of people are looking for advice, right? It's how many different things that I get phoned for, and people ask, can you give me advice on this? Like I got a guy out of this Las Vegas that wants to get a hold of me for tomorrow, and well, he's been hooking up for a while, but people want advice. And you know, one of the best things I didn't even know it at the time. This is an embarrassing story, but it's a good one. I was, this is exactly what happened. I told you about Rich Dad Poor Dad. Robert Kiyosaki would do all
Yep.
these tours, and I hadn't been with him yet. And it was the first thing, and he phoned me up, and there was a call, and it was Rich Dad Radio, and he talked to me about he heard me speak or something like that, or one of his proteges or whatever heard me speak once, and then said, "Hey, would you be interested in opening up for Robert Kiyosaki? And he's going to be up in Edmonton, Canada, and we'd like you to open up for his 2-day seminar." This is exactly what happened. So I'm the opener, but the night before you come out and you have night before you meet all the other speakers that are going to go on present for the next 2 days, and you have a wine and beer or something like that, and
Yep.
meet all the different speakers and stuff like that the night before. And obviously I met all the speakers and stuff, and we're shooting the breeze and stuff like that. And I'm the morning guy, I'm the energy guy, right?
Yeah.
And I come up, and word of a lie, I came off the stage, walked off, and one of the guys that that I'd met the night before, he walks by, and he goes up and he goes, "Bob, fantastic speech. I really appreciated it." And then he shakes my hand and he goes, "Too bad you're a dumbass." And I went, "Excuse me?"
What?
You know what I mean? And I said, I didn't know how to take him. I didn't know if he was serious, he was joking, you're a dumbass. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And he goes, "When you came off stage, you didn't look, but in the back, there was over this many hundreds of people in the back. When you walked off, you didn't see it. They were all walking in the back." And he said, and he said, "They want to buy your book. You don't have a book." And I went,
Okay.
and I said, "What would I write about?" And he goes, "Well, I just heard 3 stories up there, you know what I mean, that were damn good stories. I have a feeling you got about 10 stories to tell."
Yeah.
You put them together in a book. And that's how my book, and that's what changed because I launched it in Spanish, I launched it in this, in my writing. And guess what? You became the expert once you put a book together. But most people are too lazy. And don't get me wrong, a book's a lot of work, right? And the biggest thing I found that depending on which way you're consulting people, once they know you're an author, they thought that, okay, you know what I mean? They put you at a higher order kind of thing. And once you're an author, you're, how would I say on the thing?
You're a thought leader.
Yeah, exactly. And I never imagined how much that could impact people. And then look what happened to my title of my book, right? It's gone viral, right? Now, I didn't know at the time, right? When I launched it in 2010, bought the trademark, bought the .coms, all the domains and everything. And look where that thing laid out. And people always come, subject matter expert on this. Now I'm the subject matter expert. You know what I mean? And you go write your book. And then people come up to you, "Bob, thanks for the quote. And, now we're going to have gear. Now we're going to have this." And, it just that. But that was probably one of the biggest things that kind of took my career to another level was writing the book, where a lot of people don't. And especially for the female population, like, wow, there's so many companies that want female speakers because the female are CEOs and everything. Where back in the day, 30, 40 years ago, was still a mother stays at home and stuff like that. And, over half the population, the owners are female now. So they're looking for more female speakers, more female leaders, and if they wrote a book, oh boy, it separates you up from everybody else. Most people are lazy. They won't write a book, right?
Absolutely,
That would be the biggest thing I'd say, to people. I mention it to them all the time, and they go, "Well, that's a lot of work." And I go, "Yeah, if it was all easy, everybody would do it, right?"
Yeah, and it pays dividends, absolutely.
That one spread it, and then you put it in multiple languages. Well, just go South America. You got every country there except Brazil that speaks Spanish. You can launch it in there, and I sold, thousands of books in South America too, right? You haven't even put it in Europe or any of the other places yet.
Yeah. All right. Well, I wanted to just give you an opportunity. What would you say is the best way for someone to directly connect with you or to get your copy of your book when it comes out? What's the date of the book release? Let us know how we can get in touch with you.
That's a great question. Well, bobmolle.com. They can get my book. It's the new one's going to be out and launched probably end of September. I'm thinking my birthday. And I think we got Wade Miller. I don't know if you know that name, president and CEO of the Bombers. That's
Yep.
where I came out of there. I recruited Wade. Actually, he was a wrestler for me for 5 years at U of M. He came out of Sturgeon Creek High School, and
Okay.
he wrestled for me for 5 years while he played football too, and then had another 10 years. Relationships aren't important, are they, Liam? And
No.
and then now he's head of the Bombers, and we came from the same organization, and I recruited him, and he wrestled for me. So our days go back, and he's never done a podcast. So I think I've bent his arm enough way, and said he's never done one in his life. And he said, well, coach is going to bend my arm. I might have to do one, he says, before that. So that's where we want to launch it, is in the end of middle of September. Get comfortable being uncomfortable, and it's going to be on obviously on Amazon and my website, bobmolle.com, and we also have it on getcomfortablebeinguncomfortable.com too. So those
Okay.
are the best places where people want gear and everything else, and contact me for speaking engagements. That's bobmolle.com.
Okay, wonderful. Bob, I really appreciate your time today. It was an awesome conversation, and we'll get the episodes loaded up, and I'll make sure your marketing team gets a copy of it as well, okay?
Nice meeting you, Liam.
All right, nice to meet you too, Bob. Have a great one.
Thanks.